Hey, what's up? This is Kevin from Kevin's Barbecue Joints, and this one is just fantastic. It's with Tabb Singleton from Phat Tabb's Barbecue in Idabel, Oklahoma. And Idabel, Oklahoma is about 2.5 hours northeast of Dallas. So it's not that far away from Dallas. It's a small town, and he is putting out fantastic food. I talked to Daniel recently about his place and he just raved about it. His story is so great. It involves him going down to New Orleans and working at one of Emerald's restaurants, NOLA, and all the different ways he moved up in that restaurant, and then him going on Chopped, and he won Chopped. So he goes into detail all about Chopped. So that's interesting because a lot of us, most of us have not been on Chopped. So it's really cool. And then he talks about his different business ventures and going back to New Orleans. And then during the pandemic, heading back to Idabel, finding this place that used to be a burger spot and turning into a barbecue joint that's pumping out awesome stuff. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. He goes into all the detail about what they're serving, his mindset about food. You're going to love it. He's such a great guy. It's super interesting. Really cares about family, really cares about catering towards the locals as well as people coming from Texas or people who like Texas barbecue. Anyways, I'll cut to the chase. I can't thank Chef Tabb enough for taking the time. So sit back, relax, enjoy this. Be sure to stay safe and visit your local barbecue joint. Good afternoon, Tabb. How are you doing today?
I am good. You?
I'm doing well, doing well. I am really excited. Your food looks fantastic. Talking to Daniel, was even more intrigued to hear about your story. And then something really wonderful just popped up. A James Beard knot. So how did that come about, and how do you feel about that? It's pretty fresh.
I, to be honest, I mean, I was truly shocked, and because I saw it, Daniel Vaughn posted that some barbecue restaurants from Texas got nominated, and I was like, oh, they released the James Beard Award. I said, I just wanted to go check who all made it from Texas. I mean, I had no idea that we would be on it because there's a couple of guys here lately in Oklahoma City that's been getting a lot of nods. And last year, Chef Black, actually from Oklahoma City, he won Best
Oh
Chef
yeah.
Southwest last year. So I was like, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and look. And I was like, oh, okay, Jeff made it again. He made it. He has a great restaurant in Oklahoma City. And I just strolled down there and we were prepping at the restaurant. And I was like, oh my goodness. And they looked at me and everything else.
Oh.
And I was speechless. And I said a bunch of cuss words like, oh my gosh. And then so I showed my nephew, and then I was like, wow. And then the next thing I know, my phone just started blowing up from people congratulating me and everything else. And I was like, man. So I didn't know until I saw that
Actually a
later
really
on.
fun, that's a fun way to find out. It's just randomly reading the list.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, that is really cool. And it's for what was the category? It's best
Best Chef
nation,
Southwest
chef South.
category. And that's Oklahoma. I think, I forgot all the other states that are involved in
Yeah.
that one. New Mexico and things like that. There's a lot of great restaurants and everything else. And I mean, we're just thrilled to get nominated, especially for barbecue in the state of Oklahoma.
Which makes me so
That's
happy. Yeah.
just teetotally. Oh, that's just crazy. And like I said, I told everybody else, I said, we're just going to keep right now doing what we do.
Hmm.
I'm not expecting to make it to the finalists or anything like that. It just to get the nod, I'm happy with.
And
So
for people to know that's you're in the semi, that puts you in the semifinals, and
right now we're
you're
in the semis. They'll release the 5 finalists from each category, division wise, on April 10th, from what I've
oh,
read and looked at everything. And then they'll do the awards assembly. I mean, the awards ceremony in June is what they're going to do. But I think from what I understand, they take 5 people
okay.
from each category. So,
Did you know
or
that,
yeah,
like, do they stop by? Like, I wonder, because I know, like, with isn't there something with like a spoon with Michelin or something, like they drop a spoon, or there's something like a
I
myth
I have
about.
no idea if they did. It's one of those days when we're probably busy and I can barely look up because, I mean, you come into our restaurant. I mean, we got 5 tables, and
Okay.
you may be able to get 20 people in here. So we do a lot of takeout, and there's some days we got a big line, and we try to, I guess you say, turn and burn just so we can try to make some decent money. So we try to get our people want to go orders. We try to get them out, and so it gets pretty wild in here. And like I said, we're super short staffed, so it's usually me. I'm on the block chopping. My nephew's on the computer. I have my sister. She's over here doing plate ups and everything else. And then we always try to do a special of the day or something like that. People always tell me, they're like, "Oh, did you say?" No, I didn't know you came in. I'm sorry, because I mean we were busy, and like I said, I'm more of the focus on make sure everything's right, get things done, this and that, this and that. And but yeah, in this little old building, I mean, we turn and burn, and it's sometimes we look up and it's 12:30, and I'm like, golly, that went crazy. But
Yeah.
so
But
it's been fun so far.
so let's I want to take a step back because a lot of that too goes in line with your previous occupation, like what
Yes,
you
sir.
were doing down in
Hmm.
New Orleans. Did you grow up in Oklahoma?
Born and raised here in Idabel, actually,
Idabel.
and I graduated here in Idabel, class of '97. And I worked odd jobs off and on after I graduated, mainly construction and things like that. But I've always, me and one of my good friends, we always joked around about one of these days, let's open up a sports bar. Because young and dumb at that age, we were going out hitting bars, having a good time. Like, now,
Yeah.
we could do this one day. And I was like, yeah, I'll cook some food. I mean, just stuff cooking on the grill in the backyard, and just having a good time drinking some cold beer and firing up a grill. Any chance we got. It finally got to the point to where I was like, you know what, I really like this cooking stuff. It's pretty fun. And I said, we're talking about wanting to do this sports bar and thing one day. I said, I'm gonna go out and do it. So I applied and I went into OSU Tech, Okmulgee Tech here in Oklahoma City. I'm not Oklahoma City, in Okmulgee in Oklahoma, and it's a tech school. And so I went into the culinary program.
Oh, smart.
I went into the culinary program, and I think I was there. I made it a year and a half. It was about a year and a half is what I made it, and I enjoyed everything about it. But at that time, I got this offer to go do telecommunications when they were doing all this different fiber work and
Oh
everything
yeah.
else. And they're
Yeah.
like great money. And so I was like, yeah, maybe I should. So I went into that route, which that lasted about another, I think, year and a half, and the stock market crashed, and I
Yeah.
lost my job. They cut people, and so I needed a job. And then so luckily, we just moved to the area, and I applied at this sports bar in Norman, Oklahoma. And so they saw that I went to culinary school, and I got on there. And so mainly from that point on, I stayed in the restaurant industry. I enjoyed what we did there, and it was pretty fun. Doing it was more of a trying to be an upscale at the time, more of an upscale sports bar and everything else. But then Food Network comes on, and you start learning about all these
Yeah.
new
Same.
chefs and things they're doing. So you get more intrigued. And me, I was one of those guys that's always like, you know what? If I want to learn it, I want to go put my hands on it, learn it myself. So I moved around after that. I went to a place called Polo Grill in Tulsa, which was very top rated steakhouse
Okay.
in Oklahoma and in the United States at the time. And they have a huge wine program. So that's when I fell in love with wine pairings and different cuts of meat and doing all that more upscale stuff. And they were their white tablecloth. And that's when I got my first taste of it. And when I got that first Polo Grill, the way they ran the show and the way they did everything, I was like, you know what? I love this stuff. And I said, this is the kind of food I want to do. And so I was having a blast working there, this and that. And then, of course, at the time, still watching Food Network and all that good stuff. I was like, you know what? I want to get into doing what some of these fine dining chefs are really doing. I want to learn more about it. So I put up, because at the time, Oklahoma was mainly meat and potatoes, nice steakhouses, and things like that. It's nowhere near like Oklahoma City is right now. Oklahoma City is like a chef's playground right
I've
now.
heard it's
Uh,
yeah, really.
they are just blowing up with great prospects, and people are coming to the area. And there's a lot of chefs up there loosening up their belts and having fun up there, and that's what I like about the way the Oklahoma food scene is turning, Oklahoma City wise.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
that's
was
good.
wanting to learn a lot of this stuff, and so I sent out some resumes. I was like, I'm gonna get out of Oklahoma if I'm gonna learn this stuff. So I sent some to Emeralds, and then I sent some to Bobby Flay's, and there's the one in New York. I applied at Mesa Grill, and then I sent resumes. I started faxing resumes to Emerald's home base and things like that. And then I finally got a call from one of the resumes I sent out, and it was from the Ritz Carlton in St. Thomas in the
Oh,
Virgin Islands. And I was like, well, that won't be bad. I'll go play on the sand
sounds
on my days off. And she totally did. And we went through the whole hiring process and everything else with them. And the week before I was about to sign and go down there, Chef Michael Roos at the time was the chef de cuisine at
oh
Nola
yeah.
Restaurant,
Hmm.
which is Emerald Lagasse's second restaurant in New Orleans. And he said, hey, man, I saw your resume come across my table. We're doing some hiring. You have time to talk. And I was like, Yeah, I didn't want to tell him that in another hour I have another interview with the Ritz Carlton. So I was like, yeah, sure, yeah. So we started talking. He said, man, I looked on your resume, and he said, what struck me is he said, you like barbecue, don't you? And I was like, oh yeah, I love barbecue. And me and my dad and my brother, we would always do some of these local cook-offs here in our
Oh, cool.
hometown of Idabel. They used to have these big, pretty nice barbecue competitions during one of our local festivals. So we'd get in that and play in that. And he's, I saw you won some awards, and I was like, well, let me backtrack. I said, yeah, well, we have won awards. I put that on my thing. I said, well, I do love barbecue. And he said, well, he said, what are you doing now? And I said, well, I'm here in Tulsa at a steakhouse. And he said, well, why are you wanting to leave? I said, I want to learn more. I said, the more I research food, the more I want to learn about it. And I said, I can sit here and read a cookbook all day and practice it myself. And I said, but I want to see it from the horse's mouth, as they say, and go down there and I want to work in it. So we talked the whole hour mainly about barbecue. And it
That's so
wasn't
wow.
anything about my resume, it wasn't anything about coming down. And he said, I tell you what, let me give you a call back. And I was like, okay, sure. So luckily, the people from Ritz Carlton, they bumped their last interview like for the 2 days later. And then so Chef Macarouse called back, and then we started talking again. And then so we actually started about, and I told him, I said, yeah, I'm eager to learn. And this was right after Katrina. They finally started opening
Oh,
the city back up.
yeah.
So of course they were doing a lot of hiring and everything, looking for some folks. And so I debated. And so I called him. I said, you know what? I said, I think I may want to make this move down there. And he said, well, come down here. He said, first, come down. He said, have you ever been to New Orleans? I said, no, sir. I said, I've barely been out of the state of Oklahoma. And I said, at the time, I think I may have went to Dallas once in my whole life. And I'm 23, 24 years old. And so we drove down to New Orleans. And of course, my sister, she jumps in the ride. My mom drives in the ride. And we knew about Katrina and everything else. And well, going down to visit Nola is in the French Quarter. And so we literally went to armored guards to
Oh,
get to the restaurant for my interview.
oh my gosh.
Just because they were still opening up the city, and there was, I mean, it was like, look, not a war zone, but they had a lot of military on every different corners, this and that.
Wow.
And of course, my mom, she looks at me with her eyes this big around, like,
Like,
are
what
you
have you?
sure you want to do this? And I said, yes, I do. So we went in, and so I shook hands, finally met Chef Macarouse, and he showed me around the restaurant. And as soon as I walked in the front door, I'm like, no, I'm definitely going to work here. I mean, because you got to see the proper table setups, the fine dining china. The servers were all just decked out perfect, and we ate there. And it was just the service is what got me at first, because I remember Greg was our server that day, which he ended up becoming a manager, and we're really good friends these days.
Oh wow.
And just the way he waited on tables, and they spoiled us. He sent a bunch of stuff out to us, and he said, hey, you got time, and I'll go show you around Emerald's. At the time, Emerald's had his first restaurant on Chapatulas, and then he had Delmonico Steakhouse also. And so he took me, I jumped in with him. We went and looked at all the other restaurants. He introduced me to all the chefs and everything. So that was pretty cool. We got back to the restaurant, and he said, well, I'll tell you what, your resume, what you have right now on paper and what you're wanting to do. He said, I can get you a job at any of these restaurants. Where do you want to work? And I said, well, you're the one that called me. You're the one that got me in the vehicle and shoved me around. I said, I want to start working for you. So 2 weeks, I came back, loaded up, moved to New Orleans, found me a place real quick. And I think when I moved into my apartment, I had a blow up mattress, two fold out like camping chairs. I had a fold out table with the TV on it. And that's what I moved down there with, and clothes. I had nothing else. No pots, no pans, none of
Oh,
that. I mean, I was embarrassed to have people come over to my apartment because I didn't have anything in there. So I just started working. And at the time, like I said, it was hard to find a lot of workers. So I mean, I was able to easily get 75 hours a week, 70,
wow.
75 hours. So I took advantage of, and like I said, I was just wanting to learn so much. I
Did you
mean,
move from station to station to station? Did you get a chance
we
to
moved,
really?
and they pretty much fast tracked me through a lot of stuff. I got to start on the stations, this and that. And about 8 months in, he approached me and another gentleman, and he says, well, we're able to put some people up in what they call the MIT program at the time, which is management and training,
Oh,
to become a sous chef or anything down the line. So he chose me and another guy. So we got into the course. And from there, that's when everything really started going on. We were able to help with food ordering. We were able to, they were made trips in bakery where we worked in the bakery. We had to work a certain amount of time in the butcher shop,
Oh,
and then we helped the chefs at night with ordering and cleanup, checkout, and plus at the same time we still worked our line and did everything else. There were some things come up, and one of the sous chefs left and had to leave, and then he approached me. He said, "Hey, you're doing a really good job, and we want people in our management that we trust." He said, "Would you like to be sous chef?" And I was like, "Shit, yeah, I would." And
yeah, for sure.
then he said, "Well, it comes with a raise." I was like, "Yeah, I surely would like it now," which was really great. And the cool thing I liked about Emerald that he did for a lot of his management is parking. We had free parking, and they would give us parking passes because it was like where we were in the French Quarter, you'd have to pay to park every day. So it was like, you'd have to run around and try to find the right spot that when they quit, the meter maid quit coming through at night. And so it was a big hassle. So Emerald was he paid for all of our parking and everything. So I was sous chef for about roughly 3 years. Then I got an opportunity. My chef Michael Roos left, and then Josh Laskay, he moved up to chef de cuisine, and he was the executive sous chef. And then I got the opportunity. He offered it to me to become executive sous chef, working with him. So when Josh was gone, I would run the show, and that's when I got to do more stuff. I mean, we got to look at more like helping out with the financials, breaking down more food costs. What can we do? And then we got more onto like menu development and everything else. He was letting me jump in and do a bunch of stuff and help out with all that. We ran that. I was down there altogether 13 years.
Oh. What type of
And
food
then
was NOLA known for?
it was Emerald's more laid back, Creole wise.
Okay.
I mean, even though we still had white tablecloths and everything else, but the vibe was a little bit different because we were in the French Quarter. So we still put out really great food. It just, and we always like to compete against Emerald's. Because at the time when we were at NOLA, we were walking and rolling. We would always look at the sales at the end of the month.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like,
yeah.
look, we beat y'all by, so and so amount of money.
Yeah.
And they would always say, "Well, it's because you're in the French Quarter." But no, we got to do a lot of, and we got the specials is what were fun because they would let us run crazy unless we just got too crazy, and then they'd be like, "Well, calm down. That's not in the price point and
Yeah.
everything else." And the cool thing is that they started noticing with me because in the French Quarter it's more laid back at NOLA. I started infusing a lot because we had smokers upstairs, and on our menu we did a smoked duck, which was on the menu. And so I was like, "Man, we got this whole big old smoker up there, and we're just doing all these, 6 or 7 ducks or 9 ducks a day." I said, "Man, let's throw something else in it." So I started doing ribs during like Jazz Fest and all this.
Oh, cool.
We started getting crazy, bringing in wild boar ribs, and I always joke around with everything. I was like, "Man, I was doing craft barbecue before craft barbecue was even cool."
Yeah, true.
And I
Yeah,
said,
you
I was
didn't know
doing
you
it
were.
on a great stage at NOLA restaurant, one of Emerald Lagasse's restaurants. So we had fun. And the chefs would always joke around about it. And our corporate chef was at the time was Chef Chris Wilson. And he would come in and I can just see him roll his eyes and laugh. He'll be like, "Who put that special on the menu?" And I'm like, "This guy did." And it was like, "You're doing that barbecue stuff again?" I said, "Yes, sir." And I said, "This is our 45th plate special going out tonight." And he's
Oh,
like,
wow. See,
45? And I'm like, "Yeah." And I said, "We only got like 10 more orders to go." He's like, "Oh, okay."
yeah, it changes everything when
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
show. But what an education! What a great education for you.
Oh, it
Amazing.
was. It was. Everything I learned down there is, I mean, I'm going to remember to the day I die. And we, even moving back to small town where I'm at, Idabel, I try my best to use everything I learned there because Emerald's big thing was like, if you start with perfect product, your end product's going to be 10 times better. And so we try to use that same format here. Um, it, it could be a lot of extra work trying to make everything from scratch, trying to do more French style, you know, technical work on
Mhm.
everything. But the end product is a whole lot, is
Oh
10
yeah,
times better in my eyes. And, if somebody says these are fresh green beans and these are canned green beans, I can tell the difference. That's just me
people
from being
can.
around a great food
Yeah.
for as many years as I was in New Orleans and trying a bunch of different things. We try to incorporate some of that stuff here in Idabel too.
And what is Idabel like? And did you go back because of the pandemic? Did they shut down the
Well,
restaurant?
I, we came back. I came back to Idabel, well, twice. I'd say that. I came back because in 2013 I got the opportunity to be on Chopped, which was on Food Network,
Oh yeah.
and I was working in at NOLA that night. My Josh was off work, so I was running the show, and there was some I guess representatives for Food Network. I guess they were over in Mississippi scouting people and things like that, and they came
Yeah.
to eat at NOLA. Well, they were at the chef table, and I didn't know it. Somebody just said, "Hey, these are some special guests. You know, treat them right." So we sent out some menus, and we did another course of a booth and little snacks and stuff. I had a line cook that was it was pretty busy night, but he just kept getting crammed and crammed and backing up every ticket, waiting on stuff. And so I had to, as people say, I had to Gordon Ramsay him a little bit. And you know, when you're at the chef table, you're right there, pretty much by the kitchen. You're in the kitchen, so
Yeah.
they get to see everything that's going on. Now, I wasn't trying to go off crazy and cuss up and down like you see Gordon and stuff does, but I was like, "Hey, dude, you're killing me. You're killing me." Well, he pops off. It's like, if you think you can do any better, won't you jump back here? And I was like,
All
okay,
right.
challenge accepted. So the way we were doing is we expedite out front, and then you know the cooks prep everything, we garnish, look at everything, we send it out before we get to the food runner. So I grabbed our printer, turned it into the kitchen. I went on the other line. I started working his station, and I was commanding all the tickets from the kitchen and working his station and trying to keep the whole control of
Yeah.
the. And we were pushing, you know, almost 400 covers this night. The general manager comes over there, and he's like, just staring at me. You okay? I'm like, oh, I'm great. I'm great. I'm just trying to teach these little kids stuff. And, you know, I wasn't trying to cuss, make him mad. And then so we finally got caught up. I went back around and I told the food runners, I said, okay, we can get back onto our regular stations. We've calmed down. And I had to take one little last jab at the kid. And I walked by him. I said, see, that's how it's done. And then I just walked past, and he ended up getting mad and quitting. But I didn't cuss at him, so corporate didn't mind. I guess I don't know. At least I hope they did. Well, I went back out front, and then I forgot the lady's name at the time, the representative. But she said, "What did you just do?" And I said, "Excuse me." She said, "What did you do just now? Do?" And I said, "My job, I think." And I said, "No, man." I said, "Just we had to get caught up on some food." And she said, "That was very impressive." They're like, "You did about 20,000 different things all within 45 minutes, and you stayed calm, and you know,
And
everything ran like
they were
clockwork."
front row to it too. They
And
saw
they
it.
were front row to it. And I said,
Yeah.
"Yes, ma'am." I said, "That's the thing you learn here at Emeralds and everything else. You learn how to control chaos." And I said, "Because if you can't control chaos,
Mm.
your restaurant's going to crumble. Next thing you know, your tickets piled up, and then you have a ton of customers mad. And then if you got a ton of customers mad, that's when Emerald's going to come down on you." And that was my goal, is never to make Emerald or corporate come down
Of
on me for
course.
being backed up or anything like that. They're like, "Have you ever heard of the show Chop?" And at the time, people were telling me about it. I said, "No, I really haven't." Sit down and watch the episode. They're like, you have to watch it." She said, "I think you would be great on it because," she says, "it's nothing but it's chaotic and it's time framed and you got to do this." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And so I looked at it, and so I asked my boss. I said, "Hey, these people want me to apply. They were here at the restaurant the other day." Well, he said, "Well, let me find out," because at the time Emerald was on Food Network, so I didn't know about, you know,
Yeah, if there's a conflict or
conflict
a
of
yeah.
interest or anything like that. Well, by the time they were going to air our show and everything else, I think Emerald was stepping away from Food Network a little bit,
Yeah, I saw him. He
um,
eventually faded out.
contract
Easy
wise.
slice, yeah.
Yeah, so they said, "Okay, go for it." And
Okay.
so we applied. We went through the application process. I did a phone interview, and they said, "Well, congratulations, we're going to move you to the second round." I was like, "Okay, cool." Then they came to New Orleans and did a interview in front of a camera, basically the same questions that I answered on my phone interview. And then they did another one-on-one interview, again with the same questions and everything else. And then finally they called and said, "Hey, you've been selected to be on this episode of Chopped, and we would like for you to." So I told my chef, I was like, I said, "Hey, I made it." He said, "Do what?" And I said, "Yeah, I made it." So we went and did the show, and luckily, knock on wood, I came out with the win.
How was like we don't have to go too detailed, but it's people. Not many people have been on Shop.
Yep.
What was the experience like? Did you because I from what I heard and do you know Aaron Fegis from Fegis Barbecue
Oh
in
yes, yes.
Houston? Aaron Fegis was on Chopped, and she won it as
Oh,
well.
that's awesome.
And I had asked her just one time. I was asking her, and she was saying that they at the very end of the show, like every time you're chopped, they'll I guess they bring you into somewhere to be interviewed and talk about your. I guess they replay your stuff so that you can talk about it. Does that
Yeah.
is that how it did it at the very end of your? Because people don't. What's the process? Like, it's truly time, right?
Oh,
Is
it
it
was.
stressful?
I think we got there at 4:30 in the morning. And I got out. It was about 11:30 at night. Is when
Oh,
we got
that's a
out.
good day.
And so the actual cooking, the whole, you got 20 minutes of boom, boom, boom. That actually happens. You do that right then. But in between each round is what takes forever because it's like everybody has an hour long interview. And then so they're interviewing other people. Then they'll sit you in this one room after each round and they want you just to talk and everything. Basically, trying to somebody talk mess about somebody else and this and that
Yeah.
and I can understand for reality TV, but it's the gaps in between the rounds is what's hard. I mean, I think we did the last after I won. I think I did a total of 2 hours of interviews, and
Oh
it
Lord.
was basically the same questions over and over. And then they can see me because I'm sitting about to nod off on the last 30 minutes, and I'm like, I think we got enough. I said, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then, so of course, they tell you, well, you don't need to tell everybody this and that. You got to wait till your release is done. If people ask, they're like, you can tell immediate family, but make sure. And I was like, well, it's going to be pretty hard for me not to tell my family. And they're like, why? I said, well, all my family's downtown or right downstairs waiting for me to get done with this. And they're like, do what? And I said, we're like Beverly Hillbillies. When one person goes big, everybody's coming type deal.
I
Uh,
love that so much.
so I didn't say I won. I didn't say anything. I came downstairs and I looked at my mom and she was like, well. And I said, chicken dinner. And she was like, what? I said, let's go eat some chicken dinner somewhere. And then, so the next thing I know, when we did our little party, we had shirts made winter chicken dinner and stuff like that. So,
That's cool. What a great experience too. That's another. It's interesting because that's a one-off in life. Not many people get to do
yes.
something like
Yeah.
that, and it also too. It's interesting. You get a chance to see the behind the scenes of how this works because everyone sees it on TV, but you have no idea that I didn't realize we'd be from like 4:35 in the morning till 11 at
Yeah.
night. That's a day of dealing with all those people, and yeah. And also under three rounds of stress too. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a cool experience. But then why what made you come back to Idabel?
Well,
Well, family, because you're
the
tight knit.
original plan, and when I started about wanting to do a bar and grill, the friend that I talked about, we always joke around about doing a bar and grill. I got done with chop this and that, and things happened, and I was thinking, okay, well, I got a little momentum, and I probably should have stayed where I was at the time, but I came back, and we opened up a place called Moon Tower Bar and Grill,
Okay.
and it was about 30 minutes away from here. It's called Hochtown, Oklahoma,
Okay.
and it's turning in what everybody jokes around calls it Little Branson because it's it's about 100% Texas now because it's one of the last beautiful looking lakes in the state of
Uh-huh.
Oklahoma, and so now there's cabins up there that are just been blowing up. I mean, there's $200 cabins a night up to $6,000 cabins a night up there now.
Six
So
thousand
we
dollars must be a nice cabin.
yeah, so we
It
opened
better
up
be.
and we opened up Moon Tower Bar and Grill, and it was a perfect blend of trying to do gastropub style food, bar food, kicked up elevated food, but at the same time we still had live music, full blown bar, things like that, and everything was rocking and rolling. And like I said, my partner, he was the money side of everything. He was the one, and I said, okay. So we ran that for about 2 years, and then I guess there was some lease agreement that things that couldn't get finalized. And so my business partner came to me and said, I can't do this. I mean, for what they're wanting. I said, I understand. I said, man, I was hurt at first just because, I left New Orleans and all
Yeah, I
this
mean,
other stuff. And so we ended up shutting down. And I think I was off work for about a month. And my nephew, Bailey McCullough, he used to come to New Orleans with me when he was like 10, 11 years old. And he would stay like 2 weeks of summertime.
Oh,
because
really?
he was getting into food because Uncle Tabb was in food at the time. And so my
I
chef would
love
let
that.
him come down, and he thought he was on payroll and all this other stuff, even though I was paying him out of my pocket. So I'd bring him to work, and he would prep the morning shift with me and all this other stuff. Well, he got stuck with wanting to be a cook, and I tried my best to steer him away from becoming a chef and all this other stuff. I said it's a lot of work, a lot of hours, and everything else like that. I said there's too many ups and downs for it. But he's stuck with it. Well, he decided because he was working at Moon Tower with me too. He was my right hand man. He was actually in college, which is about what Poto's 45 minutes away, somewhere in there from
Okay.
where we are. He would come in on the weekends, work at the Moon Tower with us, and then he'd go back to college. Well, he is all lined up about the same. He decided he didn't want to go back to college around the same time we were shutting down Moon Tower, and he said, I want to go to New Orleans." And I said, "You want to go to New Orleans?" He said, "I want to move down there and go to work." I was like, "All right, cool." I said, I got plenty of contacts. I mean, because a lot of the old original NOLA crew has spread out to different places and in the city working. And so we took a trip. And like I said, I was at the time after we shut down Moon Tower, to be honest, I was debating on whether I even wanted to cook anymore.
Yeah.
It was a rough slump for me. And everybody around me, I probably knew it was a rough slump because I didn't know at the time. I was like, man, it was just a horrible feeling. And going back to New Orleans, I really revitalized me, I guess you can say. So I took my nephew down there, and he wanted to go work at one of my old friends. So we were sous chefs together at NOLA. His name was Jason Goodnuts. He opened up a place called the Carrollton Market in New Orleans. And so Bailey wanted to go down there for an interview and this and that. Well, he hired Bailey on the spot because he was there. He knew Bailey from when Bailey would come down in
Oh,
the
yeah, that's
summertime
true.
and work with us.
Yeah.
And Bailey was eager and loved everything. Well, I didn't plan on going back to New Orleans at all. And I was going to just go down there with Bailey, help him out, let him do his thing, and let him have his time in the sun in New Orleans like I did. Well, we went to eat at NOLA, and they revamped it a little bit, and so he was my junior sous chef at the time. He was now the executive sous. I mean, he was actually chef de cuisine now, Chef Phil. He said, "Hey, would you be interested in coming back down to New Orleans?" I said, "Man, I don't know." I said, "I need to do something." I said, "I don't even know if I want to cook anymore. This and that, this and that." And he said, "I'll tell you what." He said, "Let me talk to Chef Wilson because he was still a corporate chef." He said, "I want you to come back and you can be my executive sous chef." He said, "I'll have you back." And I said, "I'll tell you what." I said, "If I come back," I said, "I want to work the line first. I said, I don't want to jump into management. I don't want to do any of that. I said, I just want to get back on the line. I said, I want to burn myself. I want to sweat. I just want to work hard." And I said, I don't want any other responsibilities but working. And it really revitalized me. I mean, got me right, my head clear. I got to get back on the line, started doing a bunch of working out, all this other stuff. And then next thing I know, I was back to where I was before I left New Orleans. Everything just started flowing like crazy. And I was back to loving life. So we were all down there having a great time. My nephew was working. I got one of my good friends to come down there and work. His name's Tim Gardner. He came down there. He ended up becoming sous chef at NOLA with us. And, we're having a great time. And then all of a sudden, COVID starts coming through. And I was like, man. So no one really knew. And we just made a big, massive order because the week we shut down NOLA was the week of St. Patrick's Day. It was
Oh,
like
yeah.
2 days later when they shut the doors down at NOLA. Now, they didn't shut it down for good. They're like, we're going to shut down for a couple of weeks just to see how this does. So we did what we call hurricane preps, where we just take everything. If we had to move stuff to the freezers and things like that, started clearing everything else. So in case, if something does happen,
Yeah.
well, 2 weeks, I was like, well, we'll get us a little break. So we hung out, we cooked out at the house, and no one still knew what COVID was going on, except you see it all over the news. And I'm like, I don't think it's going to get that bad. And the next thing you know, you start seeing that map get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it gets red all over New Orleans. And I was like, oh, goodness. So then they said, well, we're going to stay shut down for another month. So I was like, well, I'm not going to stay down here for another month. I'll go back. And once again, Emerald was really awesome, helping a lot of employees out and everything else, and keeping them on health insurance
Well,
and
that's
things like that through this process. I came back home, and because at the time Oklahoma, I didn't see hardly any red dots in my hometown.
yeah.
Now we saw it in Oklahoma City, this and that, and Idabel, and I always tell everybody, I said we got too many trees around here for COVID to hit us down here. So we came back home, and we were just tinkering around. I was coming through town, and I looked over there, coming down the road, going by my mom and dad's. I was like, man, I can't believe that little burger place, because the building we're in, it's a burger. It's been a burger shack for 60 some odd years.
Oh wow.
And I said, oh, it looks like it's closed up. And so I was like, well, maybe they're just shut down for this day or something like that. So I came back. I stayed probably a couple of weeks here in my hometown, and I drove by a couple of days, never saw anybody here. And I was like, man. And I followed their thing, and they did say they were going to be shut down for vacation. So I was like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. So then after a month came by, I was like, well, or no, we were off for like 2 weeks. And I came here. And then so I went back to New Orleans, because I was like, all right, well, maybe we're about to open back up or something. And I knew we probably weren't, the way everything else was going crazy with COVID around the northern states and a lot of the travel cities,
Yeah.
getting pretty hammered. And then they told us, they're like, Tabb, it's going to be June before we reopen. And I was like, I got to do that. I said, okay, I got to do something. And they told me that. And then like a week later, they said, no, we decided we're going to wait till October. And so, and then that's the phone call when they said, we're sorry, but we're going to pull health insurance. We're going to, we're shutting everything down, trying to, and I said, I understand. I said, I appreciate everything you've done. Yeah. But they did help us with, try to Cobra packets and all this other stuff. And so we packed up, and I started moving back home, because at the time, Idabel was still hardly that much red of the COVID radar on all the news screens. And it was around the area, but not as bad as it was. So we came through again, and I moved back, came rolling by that later on that night, and I saw that building was still empty. And so I came on, we got everything unloaded. I said, y'all hear anything about that business down there, the Burger Shack? Is anything going on with it? They said, no. And then finally I saw a thing where they posted that they weren't going to reopen. And I was like, well, I got to do something, because there was no restaurant work. And then the fine dining world of cooking changed completely during COVID. So it was hard to work and get a job in that field unless you changed your whole thing up completely. Yeah. And I've always said, I said, that building that we're in right now, I said, that would be a perfect startup for barbecue. I said, because it has a drive-through. It's small. It's a very small restaurant. Like I said, 4 tables, 5 tables here. And it could be something that we could easily control. And I was like,
manage
I got the smoker, and I bought a big trailer, it's a 750-gallon trailer smoker. I bought it with my chop money. When I won Chopped, I bought it. Oh, cool. Because we were going to get into doing the big Hogs for Cause barbecue cook-off down in New Orleans.
Oh, cool. Oh, yeah.
And we were getting a team together and all this, and I was going to use that pit for it. I was like, well, I got this pit. And I said, I had money saved up from work and everything else. And then that's when they opened up some of the stuff on your 401k where you could take some money out and repay. Yeah. And then my dad approached me with an offer. Said, if you tell me how much you got, and we'll figure something out how to cover the rest. And if you want to do this, so my dad helped me sign a personal loan. And so with the money I had, we started, I say shoestring budget, but we started around $18,000.
That's pretty shoestring.
So we got new equipment. I got a car shed we boarded up for a smoke shed. I made sure I got brand new equipment, because I said, at least with brand new equipment, I can get 3-year warranty on it, this and that. If it messes up, at least I'm good for 3 years. Because when I first opened, I was like, you know what? I'll run it for a couple of years, see if this COVID thing goes out, and I may go back into it. But as soon as we fired up the pits that first week, I was like, there's no way I'm not leaving this. I mean, I gripe about all the hours and everything else and this and that, and I love what I do.
Is that 2020 or 2021?
We started in 2020 in COVID. 2020. We opened the 4th of July weekend.
Okay.
So we came back here in June for the whole month straight. My sister
she had another job helping my brother-in-law. My nephew had a job. And so I was, for the whole solid month, it was me down here. And my dad would come help me with a lot of stuff. And then my sister had helped me on her off days when she wasn't working. And we gutted cleaning this building up. We reset it up and opened up a shoestring budget. I think the week we opened, after I did my food order, I think I had $1,500 in my bank account. I was like, please, God,
it's better work. It's better work.
2 weeks. And luckily, like most new restaurants, especially here in small towns, if a new business is there, people are going to swarm it for a good month or two.
Yeah.
And so we started out with a bang. I mean, we were the first day we opened, we sold out 45 minutes.
Really?
And that was crazy. And it was like a massive line, cars down there. And I was like, man, I look like Aaron Franklin in this place. We did really good opening up. And then, of course, COVID started amping up everybody. So it started getting bad. We dipped off real slow. And then, of course, the beginning of 2021, that's when meat prices and everything else started going through the roof. And at the time, I thought it was pretty high, but I mean, I was getting prime brisket for three and a quarter. And then it jumped up to 7 at one point, and for prime briskets. And then, so pretty much all of 2020 or 21 and most of 22, because the area, I can't charge what most people do in the bigger cities, just mainly to compete in the area that we have. So we took almost an L off our whole year on brisket.
Oh my God.
And we prayed that people bought pulled pork and all this other stuff. And so we were at least covering our costs. And I did switch up for a while there. I went to choice brisket. There was even one point I tried select because, I mean, Snows, they live off select briskets down there. It's what they use, a lot of their stuff. Or that's what they claim. And so I tried it, and I did the full wrap like Snows and all this other stuff. I liked some of it, but it just I worked on it for about a whole month of trying to figure out how to make that select brisket look as good as Snows. I just couldn't do it. I said, I don't know. It's just not my cup of tea. Yeah. So we finally went back to the primes, and we finally announced that we have to adjust our menu pricing just because that's the way everything is. And so once we did our menu pricing, I mean, it's like to-go boxes and everything went up by $50 a case. I mean, it wasn't just meat; everything hit us. And so I told him, I was like, "There's no more of this $18 a pound for brisket." I said, "I got to go up." And so we adjusted our prices, and I announced it. And of course, I knew it was probably going to hurt us when I announced that we had to do our menu prices. And of course, it did. We slowed down big time as soon as we went up on our pricing, and we stayed afloat. Like I said, I told everybody through 21, and then majority of 2022, we stayed afloat. I mean, that's about all we did. We paid everybody was paid. The employees were paid. The lights were still on, and luckily, at the end of the year, my tax man said I may have made a profit at least $2. So I mean, yeah, I see it as a profit. So I didn't lose anything, I guess. But
what was your menu at the beginning? Was it the same menu you have now?
Basically the same menu. We haven't adjusted it. When I first opened, we weren't getting too crazy with specials like we do now, but it was a brisket, ribs, pulled pork, turkey breast, homemade sausage. And of course, we got sandwiches, and we do plates. We were going to try to do the a la carte, like, if you want a quarter pound and build your own plate thing. But here locally in small town, Idabel, more people would gravitate more towards a plate.
Makes sense.
So we did plate lunches and things like that. And when we opened, we would do like burger baskets. Not burger baskets. We did burgers. We had burgers on our menu, but then burgers got too crazy to keep up with, and trying to cut meat, and it was a madhouse. I mean, burgers we sold, and people still gripe to this day because we took them off. But so every now and then we do, because we did the Oklahoma onion burger, which now a lot of the barbecue restaurants are. Everywhere you see, they're doing Oklahoma onion burgers.
Can you describe the onion burger for people?
Yeah, well, so basically what it is you're going to get 8 ounces of something. So the way we do ours, we do roughly 6 ounces of fresh ground prime beef. And then what we do is we take Spanish onions and we shave them paper thin, real small, and literally almost a handful of onions we put on top. You can't even see the burger patty once we put all the onions on, and you just smash the onions into it. So your little 6-ounce burger will jump to 9 ounces just based off that. And we tell everybody at Oklahoma onion burgers, it's just, if you love grilled onions, that's what it is. It's a big old grilled onion burger, and I mean it holds all the juice in. You take a bite, and it's running all down your arms and everything else, and that's it. I mean, it's a simple burger, and we kept it simple. We did mustard, pickles, cheese was our only option. You can have it with or without cheese, and just straightforward. We didn't do lettuce, tomato, and all this other stuff, and then this just made a good burger. It got to the point to where we were doing so many burgers that it was getting hard to keep up with. So we started trying to deviate more. So I started taking more trimmings and repurposing it back into sausage.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know how people were going to, go for sausage, even though we tell them it's homemade. So now sausage has turned into one of our big things. Now everybody's like, oh man, those sausages are really great. We're going to go there.
Did you take your knowledge from NOLA and for making sausage?
A lot of it, a lot of the basic stuff and everything is making sausage. I got from NOLA, learning there, but really talking to Bill Dumas, Sausage Sensei. I mean, messaging him back and forth on little things, videos, and then School of Hard Knocks, just doing it myself and messing them up as many times as I can until I finally figure out what I'd like. So, and then like I said, since we opened, I've always said I wanted to do barbecue, but we did it so fast that we're still learning as we go. And like I tell everybody, they're like, man, that brisket's good. And I said, if you only knew that I probably changed our brisket recipe 30 different times since we've opened and a lot of it we changed mainly because when we first opened, I was trying to do like, Emerald, where he builds a lot of flavor on flavor on flavor. So we were bringing everything in to make all these big complex rubs. And then the more I winged everything down to where it's just so super simple, that everything's 10 times better.
Isn't that funny?
So we, by just the beet pricings and everything else going high, we consolidated everything to where, I mean, it's more hardcore Texas style now. We're salt and pepper, but like I said, we're like I'm not going to say we're full blown Texas because we're not salt and pepper. We do salt, pepper, but we always do additive too. And I see everybody doing Lowry's and all this other stuff too now. So, but we do salt, pepper, onion powder, garlic powder on ours and things like that. But all in all, our brisket is true Texas barbecue style, heavy bark, heavy smoke, not overcooked, but perfectly rendered where it's like juicy, runny and everything else. And then our ribs, we try to get the best of both worlds because Oklahoma likes a lot of sweet stuff when it comes to barbecue.
That is true.
And that's what's crazy is Oklahoma as a whole, I think I'm not going to go on record with this, but they have more, I think, championship barbecue teams than a lot of the states in the state of Oklahoma. So everybody does a lot of sweet stuff, and a lot of Kansas City Barbecue Association, things like that. They're more heavy on the sweet stuff.
For sure, without a doubt.
And so that's what a lot of people are used to in the area is everything being sweet. So I personally was raised on just old school smoked meat. And then barbecue sauce, if you want it, you add to it. So it's taken us a year and a half really to finally get ribs the way we like them, but also I can cater to people from Oklahoma and the people from Texas.
That's
because like I said, with us being 2.5 hours away and then 30 minutes from here is, cabin capital of the world. Dallas on Fridays and Saturdays, you can just see just Texas Tech, Texas, all going to the lake because they got cabins up there, and it's a beautiful area. But I wanted to make sure our barbecue is good for Oklahoma, but I also want it to be good for Texas because they're the ones that's traveling through the area.
So are you right off a highway, or are you somewhere like right off?
We're right off a highway. Yes, sir. Okay. There's a little bypass, and you could actually see us from where one of the highway is wrapped around by our restaurant. So it's easy to get to. So what we do on Fridays, usually Fridays, you can tell when there's something big going on or it's like a tourist time of the year.
Yeah.
Because they'll come in here and Texas, they'll give me 5 pounds of this, 5 pounds of this, 4 racks of ribs. I'm just like, my eyes this big. All right, sure.
Sure. Yeah.
And they'll load up and leave. On average, we don't get to make, that's what we love making the big trays, but we don't hardly ever get customers that buy big trays. Sandwiches, one meat plates, maybe what the special is. That's about all we sell. Maybe twice a week, or maybe if twice a week, we may be able to get a group of people doing platters. But here lately, since Daniel Vaughn did the
Yeah.
thing on Saturdays, we've been getting big tables and people, and so
Oh,
we're
that's
finally
great.
able to get to do the big plates and trays and everything else, and try to dress them up and everything else. And this week, it's been forever since we've done it. So tomorrow we're doing beef ribs and all this other stuff. So hopefully Saturdays are going to turn into what we call our Texas days.
That would be great. Yeah. Are you still cooking off the 750 that you got?
No, sir. We run the 750 also, but we now have 1,000 gallon. That one of my good friends from high school, we could put our heads together, and he does welding, and we
Oh, cool.
built us a smoker,
I love that.
and so far it's been doing the job like we learned. So
That's a fun project too. I love when I talk to people and they built their own pits or they've helped build a pit with somebody. That's because then also too you could tinker with it further if you know that there's hot spots or there's areas that
oh yeah, and we've already discussed if we ever get time and I ever space and we build another one. We already know what we're going to do different
Mhm.
on the next smoker, and to make it more efficient than what it is
Yeah.
right now. Because the one we got right now, it eats up a lot of wood, but I mean, it is 1,000 gallon. I mean, it's going to eat up some
Yeah,
wood,
it's good anyways.
especially this time of year when it gets so cold
Mhm.
here in Idabel. You got to keep that. You can go through a rick of wood easy trying to
Yeah.
keep that thing hot. But
Days of the week you open right now?
Thursday, Friday, and Saturday we open at 10:30 a.m. till we sell out. On good days, on average, here lately, we're usually sold out by 1:30.
But now that the article and also with
Since the article came out, and then now I don't know yet. I don't know if this is still article or this James
James
Beard
Beard,
people that
yeah,
are
yeah,
showing up or what. But like I said, we'll take it.
yeah. Daniel said something about he said that he loved the meal and then he got up and got more. And he said he got like a sandwich with like a fish sauce, like you had a sauce on it that was made with like
Yeah, the
was it
day
like
he
a
came in, we did what we call our Nashville hot
Nashville?
turkey. We do a Nashville hot turkey sandwich. So what it is the turkey breast that we do sweet tea. We do a sweet tea brine, and there's also a little bit of pickle juice we'll put in the sweet tea.
Oh, cool.
And that's what we brine our turkeys in, and then we'll smoke them. Well, what we'll do is when we do the Nashville hot, we'll smoke them, but we won't smoke them all the way just to get that smoked flavor on them. Then we'll slice them, we'll bread them, we'll deep fry them. And the only thing different with ours is it's we call it Nashville hot because it's the same process, but the only thing is we add Korean flavors to it, but
Cool.
it still comes out tasting like a Nashville hot chicken. So
Interesting.
what we do is we take beef tallow, and a lot of people do hot oil. Well, we'll use our smoked beef tallow as our oil, and then we put gochugaru, which
Mm.
is Korean chili flakes, and then we do put fish sauce in with ours just to give it a little bit more umami flavor, I guess, to balance a lot of things out. And then, of course, with the gochugaru, we'll put garlic in there. We'll put some black pepper, and then we'll just use our smoked beef tallow, and we'll char everything up in
Oh,
the beef tallow. So we hold the oil. A lot of people traditionally they'll take it and they'll pour the oil on top of it. Well, we hold our oil like in the warmer, and then so we fry it, we'll dunk it in there, and then we also take toragashi spice.
oh,
We'll season it with toragashi spice on top.
yeah.
So ours is it's a little bit different than the normal Nashville hot, but it's something to elevate. And then we got a thing we call it fat sauce when we do the Nashville hot. And it's my nephew actually came up with it, and it's a little bit of sriracha and things like that in it, and so it's a
How
really good sandwich when we do it. It sells like crazy
how often do
whenever
you
we
have
do
it?
it.
Is it just kind of on a whim? Like, do you guys choose? You don't have it every week, right? It's not
We
a
don't have we don't have anything set with our specials because I told Bailey we all discussed it and like we like to just come up with things and say let's try this, let's try this, let's try this. So we don't have standard days like we're going to do burn-ins this day, we're going to do this day. I mean, each week we're like this week I was like let's just try this. So like this week we're doing tabbouleh as a side
Oh,
option.
cool.
We got a bunch of kale in because we had a big catering, so we got some kale from some locals. So right now I got a batch of kimchi that I'm making, kale kimchi
Oh,
that we're going
cool.
to use on something next week.
Nice.
We got green chili hominy, so we treat it almost like a Native American pasofa would be with cracked hominy and things like that. But we had a bunch of green chilies in it, and people ask, we tell them this is our version of mac and cheese, so we put a bunch of cheese in with it. So it's like a green chili enchilada style. Is what it tastes like. It tastes like an enchilada. But we do put a little bit of pork product in with it. So we're trying to keep it Native American, but at the same time, try to add some different influence, fusion wise, to it. Just because in Oklahoma, we're in Choctaw territory and
Yeah, yeah,
everything else, and so we try to pay homage to all the heritage around
yeah.
us as we can.
That's cool that you do an homage to them. That's so then so does the special with the specials, do they also go with the sides then? Because isn't there like a white trash mac and cheese or something like that?
We have three standard sides.
Okay.
We have our Cajun style red beans, which from working in New Orleans,
Perfect.
you got to have red beans. So of course it's going to have some little bit of brisket trim in there, but it'll have the Cajun Trinity in it and red beans. And we save all of our bones from when we trim down our spare ribs, and we make a big pork broth, and that's what we cook our beans in. And then we got a thing we call it white trash potato salad. And the reason why we call it white trash potato salad is because I always joke around, because when I was in New Orleans, a lot of line cooks and everything, we'd always joke around, especially during football season.
Of course, yeah.
Because I'd always say, "No, OU's about to beat the mess out of y'all," which they would disappoint me half the time. But they're like, "Man, the only thing in Oklahoma is white trash and rednecks." So I was like, "True. I mean, I'll give you that. I mean, I mean, if that's what you think." So on our menu, you'll see us. I'll say we're doing this redneck style sandwich, or we're doing this white trash, whatever. So we do it as a gimmick towards them, but everybody says Oklahoma's white trash and redneck. So I was like, yeah, I'm proud of both of them.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
Guess. So,
it's pride for
yeah. So you'll see me doing, and it's little gimmicks of stuff like I hear people joke about, like this is what white trash people eat or rednecks eat, this and that, and this and that. And I'm like, well, no, I'm more of a redneck. I know what people eat, but our white trash potato salad, all that is, it's a loaded baked potato as a joke, as an homage to people joking around with white trash. We top it with bacon bits, like just the imitation bacon bits. So there's real bacon in it. And then, of course, we got mustard, chili, kitchen sink basically in it.
Do you make your own desserts then too? Because it sounds like you would. Or do you even have desserts? Is that give it a space for
desserts?
Yeah, dessert wise, yeah.
Dessert. I let my sister take care of a lot of desserts and everything else because I focus on that, and we arrange around, like I said, with the weather. Everybody else jokes around like, "Why don't you do this?" I said, "I cook seasonal, so when it's cold, I'm gonna cook a lot more heavy stuff as sides. As it gets hotter in Oklahoma, especially when it gets up to the hundreds and everything else, we do a bunch of lighter stuff. So right now we're doing a bunch of cobblers, different style cobblers.
Oh, cool.
Our top seller cobbler, when we do it, we call it Fireball Peach Cobbler, which is it's peach cobbler with a lot of Fireball whiskey in it. We take Cinnamon Toast Crunch cereal and we'll puree that up, and that's what we make our crumble with.
Oh, cool.
That's really good. This week we're doing a chocolate pecan bourbon bread pudding.
Oh, wow.
And so we'll do a lot of bread puddings and cobblers around this time of the year, and then we'll ease into who knows.
Yeah.
We do puddings, we do Mississippi mud pies. We try to stay away dessert wise than what the traditional banana pudding and things like that. So we try to have some fun doing different cheesecakes and things like that.
Sounds like you have fun with everything you're doing. And it seems like
we do. We try to have the classics, and we try to stay with the classics. But sidewise, each week we always try to change up. We have one standard sausage, and then we try to do a different sausage. So we try to have some stuff there, but we like to have fun. And like I said, we'll sit here on Saturdays when we sell out. Usually we'll sit down here and we'll powwow, like, you want to try this? Let's do this. Let's do this. My nephew says, hey, I want to try this. I'm like, let's try it. Why not? I mean,
that's cool.
So we try not to be handed down to one thing. And then on our sides and specials, we want to do barbecue, like the same classic meats, but we want to add them to something different. So like today we did a yakameen, which in New Orleans, it's another word for old sober. It's a hangover cure soup. So in New Orleans, you braise roast, and you make a big broth out of it. You serve it with spaghetti noodles and a hard-boiled egg, and you make a broth. And that's what it is. And you eat it the next day if you're hungover or been out for late night. So we do the same thing here, but we refine it a little bit more. So we treat ours more that as an ode to New Orleans and yakameen, but we try to add in influence of like a true ramen would be. So we save all of our pork scraps and bones and stuff. So we make a heavy bone broth, and then we'll add some additives like hot sauce and things like the Cajun would do. Then we do a hard boiled egg, but the only thing different is we try to treat it like ramen. So we do a soy marinated egg, and then we try to use instead. And they use spaghetti. We try to use ramen noodles, fresh noodles, and then we'll do sliced brisket in with it. We put chili crunch with ours and some fresh herbs.
Oh.
And it's funny, especially in the hometown of Idabel, Oklahoma, when people you explain it to them, they're like deer in the headlights, like, what did he just say?
Yeah,
but once they try it, and that's one thing we've done since we've opened, we try to do all this other stuff that people in the area are not used to, but at the same time we become teachers. So we have to teach them and say, this is what's in here, this is what's in here. Just try it. I mean, just try it. And then you can say, you had something from Asia.
Yeah.
You had something from there. And, 9 times out of 10, once they eat it, they're like, man, that is really good.
Uh-huh.
And then so we've changed a lot of locals to where
that's great.
They come in and they just buy specials. They don't get barbecue, any of the other barbecue.
Yeah, you've opened their mind to something that they've never had before.
Yeah. So
expanded
and that's
their
what
horizon.
we try to do here.
Yeah.
Is do a lot of extra stuff, to represent our hometown, but also, to teach them that there's more than just deep fried meats and mashed potatoes.
Oh,
We've
that's
turned
so
a lot
great.
of people into some followers, which is great, which in turn has helped us out a lot too.
No, if I feel like the people of Idabel, they're very lucky to have you, and it's something, and you're lucky to have them as customers. But also, it's inspiring what you're doing, and what you have is a gem of a restaurant. It's like it's such a, and people that might not even realize how special it is. I'm so thankful to talk to you, and I can't, I cannot wait to visit. Is there anything about you that you want people to know about, or anything about the restaurant that we haven't discussed?
Call, follow us, get our number online. If there's something you want,
I'll put it down.
We do pre-orders at 8 a.m. in the morning.
Oh, cool.
A lot of the other big cities, you'll see them do pre-orders all during the week. We set from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. that you can pre-order if you're traveling, because we do get a lot of travelers, and
that's great.
Sometimes they don't understand that they can pre-order, and they get here wanting brisket at 1 o'clock, and we're already out of brisket. So we tell everybody, give us a call at between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. and you can reserve your meat, and we'll hold it here.
Cool.
The sign may say sold out, but we'll still have your brisket and slab of ribs or whatever you want. We'll hold it for you.
That is great to know. That's important.
And so we do that. Other than that, it's just we want some people. We want people to come try us out.
Yeah.
We want you to pull up to the restaurant and be like, "Oh man, I don't know about this. It's a little hole in the wall. I don't know."
That's
and then we want to surprise you once you eat it.
That's my favorite thing.
We call our restaurant the perfect yin and yang. You come in thinking like, oh, I don't know about this, and then all of a sudden you try the food, and it's unexpected of what you would see coming through Idabel, Oklahoma. I mean, so it's like we always like to say our barbecue is classic, old school Texas barbecue meets new age barbecue meets fine dining. But we all try to put those same concepts all on one plate and for you to try.
All in a 5-seat or 5-table restaurant. Like it's
5-table restaurant. Yes. Yes.
Wait, so let's go over. You said it was about 2.5 hours from Dallas. I think we might have said that off camera. So 2.5 hours from Dallas. How close are you to other cities in the area? So people like how far away?
Oklahoma City is probably about 3.5 hours, and Tulsa's about 3 hours. Oh. Now there's Paris, which roughly, what do you think, 20,000 people there. And then we got Texarkana, which I think they're up to 50,000 people. Both of those places about 45 minutes.
Oh, not
but
too
that's
hard.
about it. I mean, 2 hours. Any metropolitans 2.5 to 3 hours away from us. So.
And Broken Bow. Why do I know Broken Bow? Because Daniel mentioned in the article, and he mentioned it.
Broken Bow. Broken Bow. Everybody calls it Broken Bow. Us, if we're local, we call it Hochtown, because that's what it is. It's turned into a big tourist area for people from Texas, Arkansas, and everything else. Like I said, it's Little Branson. I mean,
so that is the place that you were discussing.
Cabins.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
A lot of cabin areas, a lot of places to go, ATVs and things like that.
Okay.
Nice restaurants that are up there now and everything else. So they have a lot of tourists that go up there.
So someone could go and stay in Broken Bow and visit you a couple times. Like they can go. Is it that close? Like, is it half an hour? You said?
Yeah, 45? we're only 30 minutes. We're actually on the way to Hochtown.
Yeah.
You come around Idabel. There's bypasses, but if you come in town a little bit, you can catch us, load up, we can have you in and out the door, and you can head to Hochtown. It's like 25 minutes away from here.
So I was trying to think if there anywhere in Idabel that people could stay if they wanted to spend the night and visit you twice. Like say someone wanted to visit you twice and then get on their way. Is there anywhere?
Oh yeah. You can get it on the way and then turn around and get it on the way back.
Yeah. It'd be perfect. Because are there any hotels in Idabel?
We have some hotels.
Okay.
I think we have like 3 or 4 hotels and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
So
Okay.
people stop here, and a lot of people actually are booking more here in Idabel and in Brookville area, and then driving up to the lake and everything.
Yeah. Excellent. But thank you, Tabb, so much for taking the time. I truly appreciate it. And I have your whole story, so this is so good.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Appreciate meeting you. I can't wait to visit. I really, truly cannot.
Thank you much.
All right. Have a great day, sir.
You too. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.